All right, good morning. It's November 12th, about 9:15 or so in the morning, and I finally returned to the garage. Had some business travel, had to fix my Honda Fit and soccer games and what have you, so finally now I've gotten a day that I'm over here at the garage to be able to do some work on Dorothy. So I'm changing the plan up a little bit, as I'm sure you can all, realize that that's what you do, is you change plan all the time. I had mentioned in my last video, or at least in my blog post, that I'd knocked these holes on the sill a little too small, and it was filling up with weld material before I was getting them welded in. So I'm going to pull that back off, repunch some holes, but I'm going to leave it off, and I'm not going to worry about the driver's side. I'm going to go and fix the boot and get that, or at least as close to being fixed as I can get it, and concentrate back there for the next, several visits. I'm sure that'll take me a while to get that all done. And then once that's done, I'm going to land the tub onto my rebuilt chassis and frame, and then get it bolted down and try to get everything adjusted from there. Based on a couple of the comments and recommendations that I had from both my YouTube channel and my website, the body flex and everything that I may have, you can kind of take care of quite a bit by getting the thing bolted down. Obviously, I do have it on a frame now, but as I had mentioned, the frame was cut in half and I welded it back together, so I'm not, exactly sure that it's obviously that square, and it's not the frame that the body's eventually going to be on anyway, so I would like to get something that's a little bit better and a little bit more solid. So the plan ahead is to go ahead and do that, get the boot fixed, at least as much of it as I can, get the body landed, and then get everything adjusted to get the doors fitted and all that kind of stuff with everything bolted down, and then go ahead and get the outer sills welded in. And I'll probably pull the tub back off because I want to do some work on the bottom, but that's way in the future from now, so I'm not going to really stress about that too much. But anyway, that's the plan ahead, so I'm going to move in that direction, and a lot of deconstruction and everything back in the boot area, so I'm not so sure how constructive the videos are going to be today, but I'll keep you updated as usual. So it's good to be back over here, and we'll see how it goes. All right, update 11:30-ish. Update you guys before I have another gourmet meal of tuna fish. So I've started to remove the rear part of the car. Still can't remember what it's called. So essentially, the union between the bottom and the trunk floor, or the boot floor, was pretty much gone. So I drilled out a couple of the spot welds, but not too many, because it just really wasn't worth it. I'm going to have to reconstruct all of these seams under here anyway. But that's all completely loose now. You can see it just kind of moves. This is the tricky spot up in here. Get situated here. So you got three pieces of metal coming together here. You got the outer wing, the rear part, and then in that center there, if you can see that third piece of metal there, that's that inner support for the boot area. So this thing with all the cutouts in it, which I need to replace the bottom of that, like I've showed you guys before. So the trick has been to drill through enough that you break the spot welds on that center piece of metal there, so that you remove it from the rear piece. So it's obviously much easier to drill from the outside, because it's hard to get in there where the crease is on the inside. But I had some difficulty in splitting that support piece, that center piece of metal there, from the rear portion. So was eventually able to do that. This is where it's going to get really tricky up in here. I'm not exactly sure how it attaches. Obviously, you've got several right there that I've started to drill out. And then I think you got like a little step platform there. That guy right there, where it looks like it attaches. I'm not exactly sure how that attaches. I got to clean that area up in there. But it's the same thing over here. That one's not in as good a shape. It looks like it's starting to bend and rust and stuff. So I also put that lower portion of the outer wing up here to see how much metal I recovered by getting the new piece, and it comes up pretty high. It comes up to about that spot weld there. So because of that, and because everything else was gone, I essentially didn't waste my time drilling these spot welds out, and just cut with the grinding wheel or the cutting wheel in here and just split it there so that I didn't have to worry about it. And then if you can kind of see that, split it between the boot floor itself and the rear cowl. So that's where I stand. Gonna try and get this figured out over in here and try and get this entire side essentially detached, and then I should get rolling pretty quick on the other side there, and hopefully the thing will come out, and that'll be kind of scary. So hopefully there's not a whole lot of tricks for support here. I didn't really do any research, but it's definitely wobbly, but I'm not too concerned with it, since again I'm not removing too much of the car. So we'll see how that goes. All right, quick update to kind of show how I think this attaches, or how it's supposed to attach. So I was able to break away all the 3 pieces of metal there. You can pretty clearly see the outer wing on your right. Excuse me, the center piece of metal is that strengthener plate there, and then the inner piece of metal is the rear part. So I stuck the screwdriver in between where the brake light mounts and the rear, and you press it down, and you can see, hopefully it's not attached there. I haven't broken these spot welds yet. There's a couple spot welds right here that I did break. So into the boot itself, you can see where that piece of support metal, let me get situated here, that piece of support metal is right there. Just that little, like, bridge or whatever you want to call that little L-shaped piece that's pointing down there. So if I stick the screwdriver in there, you can't really see that well. Let me see if I can get a better angle. If you stick the screwdriver in there, maybe you can see that flap moving up and down. My guess is that flap right there is supposed to be attached. So I don't think that this piece here, I'm running out of room with hands, I don't think that this, let me see, where am I don't think that this flap right here should be detached like it is. I'm pretty sure that that's supposed to be spot welded to this thing. It's spot welded here into that strengthener piece, so I think that's where I'm going to try to drill it out in there. That's going to be pretty tight. I'm not sure that I'm going to be able to do it, but that'll keep this whole support kind of in one piece, and I just think when I go back to reattach this eventually, that'll be an easier attachment point. So trying to plan ahead there. So sorry about that if that wasn't really clear. When I take it apart, hopefully I'll be able to show it a little bit better. But I'm going to finish out breaking these spot welds and then go inside the boot there and see what I can do in there. Once I figure this out, the other side hopefully won't be too bad. All right, another quick update. Still struggling with this area over here. I've essentially mangled that pretty bad. The top piece there, there's a little, this is a separate piece here, I guess, that connects like the inside of the wing to the boot. So I've destroyed that little thing right there, so I'll have to clean that up. But if you look close, maybe you can see the brass that's in there. So I struggled with the brass on the front of the brazing, so I'm going to have to come through that. There is another piece inside of here. I don't know if I'm going to be able to show you with the camera. So the back piece that's there, and then to your right, I believe, if I'm doing this right, there's another support in there. It's really hard to get in here and actually be able to see anything. I think you can see it there. It comes from the right of the picture and it flaps down. So that had 2 spot welds in it. I think I popped them both, but I'm not positive yet. I gotta get my head in there and try to look. But that's where it's holding there. But I think once I cut the brass brazing, I'll be all set with this side. So we'll see how it goes. All right, well, I got it loose here. It's completely disconnected. So the trick was to get in here and break all these welds. Definitely the most difficult area of the removal. When I get it all completely out, I'll show you a little better how I did that and how it's connected. And then obviously, you know, how much you have stuff connected at the bottom is going to really control how long this is going to take you. So a lot of collateral damage, I guess you could say there, but I think in the end it's going to end up being the right choice. There's some body work that needs to be done on this panel and some other stuff that I think taking it out in light of what all I have to do is probably the better bet. So especially where this meets the boot floor, that's a mess down there. So I'll move on the other side here, get this completely out, and start cleaning it up. Take another look at what the damage is and how I'm going to go about attacking the repairs. But it's not going too bad. I'm pretty happy. It's 12:30 or so it's going to take me, you know, most of the day to get this thing off of here. But I'll attack the other side in the same way. There's a little bit more damage in this area over there, so hopefully that's not going to impact me too much. But we'll see how it goes. So moving on. All right, so it's 1:30 and I got the rear cowling off. This seam over here was in much worse shape as far as corrosion went, though I did better for that little interface piece between the boot and the rear wing. You can see where the damage is on the light. There was damage under there. Essentially the entire piece over here was gone as compared to this over here, which is relatively nice and clean. So obviously I'll have to fix that. Clean that up. A lot of dents and nicks and stuff in it, and obviously you know, the bottom is practically missing. This seam over here, I'm not sure what I'm going to be able to do there outside of replacing the whole thing. That'll be fun. Let's see what else. So obviously the whole bottom of the boot floor there needs to get cleaned up. A lot of seam sealer and stuff down there. Get that all cleaned up. Big crack right in the middle there that I'll fix. And then the inner supports, we've already documented them enough times. So yeah, so not too horrible getting the thing out. I'm a little concerned with how I'm going to be able to get in there. As far as getting the centerpiece down in there, so I'm going to have to figure out where I want to cut the thing, the replacement metal, figure out how I'm going to fit that. Obviously the same challenge on the other side, but get the rear bottom of the wings here cut out. That'll get me a little bit of access down there, and you know, this is going to be a challenge over here. The inner wheel well may also be damaged as far as the support goes, so I'll have to take a look at that. But not too bad as far as getting work done. So now I'm going to just kind of start cleaning stuff up. Not really any more fabrication or anything. Get some wire wheels going in here and stuff like that, and get a lot of the rust and the grime and the gunk off, and find where my good metal is and where my bad metal is, and start going from there. So probably the last update for the day. It's like I said, about 1:30. So maybe I'll give one more after I do some cleanup, but I'm not going to really get into any welding or fabrication today, so I might call it a little early, but we'll see. All right, final update. It's about 2:45. Got to get home for something. So I didn't really get a whole lot of cleanup done, but I got that little break there lined up and ready to, you know, make sure that that's going to be okay. Could probably weld it. I did get some of this cleaned up here. There's a couple bumps and dings, as you would expect. This piece right here should be a nice hard kind of crease. You can kind of see it over here. I think that's factory like that. I got to look at a close-up, so I'm not quite sure how I would try to reproduce that, but obviously the whole bottom of this is going to need to be worked, and then a lot of the bottom of this is going to need to be worked as well, but that I think is going to be relatively easy. Just essentially, you know, one or two long pieces, and weld it in, and it should be okay. The trickier parts here are obviously going to be that strengthener in there. I also found that this is kind of pounded in here a little bit. I don't know if the taillight got smashed or something like that, but that's a pretty subtle kind of ding there, and unfortunately there's no way to really get behind it that well. I am going to probably drill that out, I think, and replace that whole plate there, because I'm sure that rust gets underneath that seam in there. And then this is going to be tricky. That's a real hard crease here. That's going to be tricky to get in there. You can see where the person before me had used a slide hammer, because I don't know how I'm going to get inside really up in that corner. That's pretty hard to get at without cutting more metal away, and I don't really want to do that, so I've got to do some research there. But all in all, not too bad of a day. Obviously, I'm a little out of practice, being away for a couple weeks, so obviously still a lot of work to do to get this ready to start putting back together, but not horrible. I don't think it's going to be unsurmountable, obviously. Thought about a little bit taking the boot floor out, but I don't really think it's worth it. But I am going to have to repair the sides of it there, so once I get that strengthener piece out, I'm going to have to get into there to repair those sides, but we'll see how that goes. So that's it for today. I'll see. I'm not quite sure what the schedule looks like for the week. Not really too many updates to the website of late either. That's kind of fallen by the wayside a little bit. But you know, if you're still interested or getting caught up or whatever, www.roundtailrestoration.com. And please, if you like the videos that you're seeing, please click like and feel free to subscribe. Have a good rest of your weekend. Cheers.